The conversation of your life, local, relevant, digital, and always on.
America will hear my 2 cents.
Elected to serve iHub radio listeners across the desert cities. He calls it as he sees it.
Quick question.
Now, here's Russ Betts.
Someone answer him now!
Well, it happened again at the last council meeting. Somebody stepped up to the public speaker podium, and after they finished their comments, they said, "Thank you for giving me this time. It's your time. You don't need to thank the city council for giving it to you. You get time at the meeting. The pecking order is that you're the boss. You always have time to speak. It's your time. Nobody gave it to you." Okay, this is Russ Betts. I'm coming to you from beautiful downtown Palm Springs in the iHub studios here. Right now, there's some hard decisions facing Riverside County when it comes to the budget. We're in a good economy, in case anybody haven't noticed, but despite that good economy, the spending plan struggles to keep pace with rising costs. So the county's got to do some belt tightening. The economy is good. Nationally, the economy is good. The state economy is doing well. California's budget surplus is $21 billion. All signs are up. And Riverside County's unemployment rate is less than 4%, so people are working. But the budget in Riverside County is not doing as well. It's in a deficit. And here comes the usual concerns over cuts to services. Well, what else happens when you've got a budget deficit? Typically you cut costs, but I know sometimes government likes to raise taxes, but that's not in the works. I'm reading an article here in the Press Enterprise that says several departments are worried, and the Press Enterprise points specifically to animal control services, saying that those may be facing a 7 to 8% cut. Now, county supervisors are going to take up this issue on Monday. It's going to hold public hearings. The budget year, in case you're wondering, starts on July 1st, so that's why all the commotion about this now. And my thought when I came across this story, hearing that they'd be holding the budget hearings on Monday, is that I wouldn't be able to attend because the meetings are normally in the daytime. But the supervisors decided to hold the meetings at 6 p.m. to encourage public participation. Hey, I may go. Audience seats and that. The seating, and if you haven't been in the council, in the supervisors' chambers, they actually have very, very comfortable seating. You can't exactly kick back and put your feet up and start chewing on the popcorn, but hey, it's easy to sit through a meeting there when you got comfortable seating. Anyhow, sounds interesting. Might be a fun way to spend a Monday evening. The sheriff, the district attorney, and other department heads will all each give their presentations. That's usually what happens at these budget meetings. And then there'll be a proposed budget, which is already out. It's not final, though. But it shows a spending increase of 6.6%. And it's a total budget of $6.1 billion, but that's a bit deceptive because the supervisors actually only control about 15% of the budget. They decide spending on $838 million, which is still a lot of money, but it's way short of $6.1 billion. And the rest of that money is dedicated to funds that are tied to specific programs, money that's coming in from the feds for road work, things like that. Stuff that they just can't touch. So the supervisors handle about 15% of the budget. Now, property tax receipts account for 47% of the county's general purpose revenue. And of course, those receipts are up. Everybody noticed your property taxes reset, so the county's getting that money. But they've also got costs going up. They got rising labor and pension costs. They've had some lawsuit settlements requiring that they spend more money for jail inmate health care. And then they've got to hire staff for an expanded Indio jail. It's actually quite a bit of commentary you could take on this where, the county is having to now do the job the state used to do. And I'm looking back here to see in California had a $21 billion surplus. Maybe they had to transfer some of that surplus to the county to start operating the jails that the state used to consider its responsibility. Anyhow, there's $212 million in reserves, so there are actually savings to weather a storm. But keep in mind, we're in an up economy. The economic waters are not exactly stormy at present. So the deficit being talked about is $22 million. And that's 10% of the reserves. So they're talking about spending 10% of the reserves. And if all conditions stayed the same, the county could continue for 10 years before it ran out of savings with that shortfall. With that surplus. But of course, things don't always stay the same. For 10 years, the conditions aren't going to just remain as they are. Revenues are not going to keep going up forever. The economy will change. Meanwhile, costs usually do keep going up. For example, labor costs, those are being negotiated now with employees and employee unions. Supervisor Kevin Jeffries, who's the old hat up there at the Board of Supervisors with all the changeovers that have taken place of supervisors leaving and new ones coming on board, he blamed the county's budget problems on significant lawsuit settlements and a few past board actions. For example, in 2013, they spent $30 million on the former Press Enterprise building. They decided it would serve as a economic technology headquarters for the county. And then they spent $40 million on a contract with a consulting firm to tell them how to save money. All right, well, anyhow, the scariest part of all this is that they're having budget problems now in an up economy, and if the economy takes a turn to the worse, it's going to get bad. All right. You've probably heard, it started with news out of Blythe that the California Border Patrol was Immigration and Customs, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, that's what they call them, had started to drop off migrants coming across the border in Blythe. And shortly after that, we heard from Palm Beach County, Florida. They were told they were going to get some migrants, and of course they started complaining wildly that this was a border state problem. Don't bother us, we don't want them. And Concord, California, months and months ago, went into a tizzy because they thought they were going to get some immigrants. Well, anyhow, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection has been loading vans with migrants who they say are from Central American countries. These are families. They've been driving them from El Centro Border Patrol Station in Imperial County to a Greyhound bus station in San Bernardino. And so they're saying this is due to capacity limitations at the U.S. Border Patrol stations on the southern border and the limited capacity of immigrant and customs enforcement to accept transfers of family units. So on March 19th, they began releasing non-criminal processed family units, and to date, the California Border Patrol has released more than 40,000 family unit aliens on a notice to appear, which basically is their own recognizance to show up. Now, last month, bringing this here a little closer to the Coachella Valley, at the Coachella Valley Association of Governments Public Safety Committee, Police Chief from Palm Springs, Brian Reyes, informed the committee that they've been told locations in the Coachella Valley would now be included as drop-off points, that it wasn't just going to be San Bernardino. And there's been a location in Coachella at a church that's been handling migrants for quite some time, but the news is that now other locations in the Coachella Valley will start receiving migrants. Now that happened at the meeting about a month ago when that notice came through. So coming up on Monday, if you're interested in attending, the Public Safety Committee, which I happen to chair, is going to be taking up this issue, specifically getting an update from Border Patrol and others to let us know what exactly is going on. When I called and talked to the mayor of the city of Blythe, when all this happened back in, was it March? He said there was a little bit of panic that went through. They didn't know what was going on, and they've since found out that things have been pretty orderly, and they've just been a way station, people transitioning through, which seems to be the case everywhere that these families are being dropped off. They have family contacts somewhere, and so they're sent on to where they can be with family or relatives or whatever. So we're going to find out what the story is here in the Coachella Valley. Looking across the country, though, you get U.S. Border Patrol agents from El Paso sector recently apprehended, get this, 1,036 people all in one group. How do you handle that? Well, obviously they're very peaceful. They're just walking right across the Rio Grande River and saying, hi, here we are. Well, they ended up with 1,036 people after they illegally crossed the border in El Paso, Texas. So they were immediately taken into custody by Border Patrol agents. And they're saying that's the largest group ever encountered by the Border Patrol. That's the press release out of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection from the El Paso sector. That's in Texas, by the way. And in case you're wondering who they were, they said after they got through processing everybody in that 1,036 group, they were from Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, consisted of 934 family members, 63 unaccompanied minors. Well, somebody separated the families there. 63 unaccompanied minors came across the border. Okay, well, I guess they got separated down there in Guatemala, Honduras, or El Salvador. And then there were 39 single adults. Yeah, I know, there's a little bit of editorializing there by me, but, all right, I'll just forget it. All right, and then, of course, out of Del Rio, Texas, there's another issue there with Border Patrol agents assigned to the Del Rio sector began releasing detainees on their own recognizance also. So this is going on all over from all the border agencies. They're all swamped, overrun. And they're saying the demographic is challenging, that they cannot be immediately returned to their country of origin. And U.S. Border Patrol processing centers are not designed to house the current numbers of families and small children that they're encountering. So what they're doing is they're releasing them once they find out they've got some place to go, and they're releasing them at bus stations. So Del Rio sector says they're going to continue to coordinate with stakeholders in the local community, including other law enforcement agencies and elected officials. And right here close to home, we'll be doing that on Monday, June 10th at 9 a.m. at the Coachella Valley Association of Governments. Okay, we got lots more ahead here. This is Russ Betts on iHub Radio. Well, I think that's time to hit this button and say we'll be back in just a moment.
Make a big change to your bathroom. Options? Yeah, you've got them. With a new collection of vanities that are on trend and savings to keep you on budget. The Home Depot's putting the power of change right in your hands.
Read about it tomorrow. See it tonight. Hear it all day today. If it's happening in the Coachella Valley, it's front and center now on iHub Radio.
And there it is.
Now, here's Russ Betts.
Well, if you're going to be traveling to parts west of the Coachella Valley and along State Route 60, be forewarned, there's going to be slowdowns, constructions on the way. They've got truck lanes they're installing, and construction's going to begin on June 10th. And they'll be installing fencing, removing the center barrier, restriping lanes, construction striping. And then there's going to be nighttime lane closures. And I guess the big days to watch are June 12th through the 13th from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. The road's going to there'll be lane closures then. So I think moving it down to one lane, I'm not sure. There may be total closure at some point in time. And on Friday night, June 14th, they're also going to be closing it from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Either way, it's going to be a mess going through there. So probably what you're going to want to do is get caught in the mess on the I-10 instead, and then work your way over to wherever you were planning to take the 60 to get to. All right, not fun times for motorists, but it'll be much better once they get those truck lanes installed. Palm Desert just got the letter. That's what they call it when a city gets a letter notifying them that, well, it's time you consider voting districts. Palm Desert is elected, council members are elected at large, but they got two women have filed a lawsuit against the city of Palm Desert saying that they need to establish voting districts. And the lawsuit claims the city has violated the California Voting Rights Act of 2001. The city uses an at-large voting system, and the claim is that prevents Latino residents from electing candidates of their choice or influencing the outcome of Palm Desert City Council elections. That suit was filed on Wednesday, and there's a hearing set for 8:30 a.m. December 4th in Palm Springs. If it gets that far, Palm Desert may just go ahead and take care of this. Now, there's the data, the demographic data in Palm Desert is 65.2% of Palm Desert's residents are white, and 25.9% are Hispanic or Latino. And Palm Desert City Council includes 4 women, all Caucasian, no Hispanic members, and 1 male, also a Caucasian. And the incumbents won easily. Last 2 incumbents to run were Jan Harnick and Sabby Jonathan, and the suit says they won easily. And so Palm Desert becomes one of 300 jurisdictions across the state that have changed to, or are changing to, by-district voting. There's one city that's challenging. It's Santa Monica. And, they got a scare when the judge told them, okay, we're all going to have to vacate your seats in July. That was stayed. The judge has given them more time. But fighting this thing really comes at a price. Palmdale fought it when it first came out and spent $2 million and lost. And since then, every city has pretty much decided, you know what, you're done. Now, Palm Springs and Cathedral City and Indio all recently changed to voting districts. So, okay, Palm Desert, you got that one to work through. There'll be meetings showing up, districting maps and all according to demographics, and trying to carve out how the districts will work, and that large elections seem to be going away in Palm Desert. All right, the Today Show came out with a list of the 19 best resorts in the U.S., and we're happy to report that right here in the Coachella Valley, the Miramonte Indian Wells Resort and Spa came out at the top of the list as, according to the Today Show, one of the 19 best resorts in the U.S. I don't know why they didn't go to 20, but all right, they stopped at 19. That's fine. Best out of 19 is good. And why to go, they say? This beautiful property located at the base of the Santa Rosa Mountains is set on 11 acres amidst trees and sculptured gardens in the Palm Springs Desert, and it makes for a quintessential natural escape. They say they picked it because it's close to Palm Springs without actually being in Palm Springs. They say it's good that it's out of the heart of the action. Okay. And it's also a good home to base for exploring Joshua Tree National Park. All right, Coachella, the city of Coachella is holding a Southern California Cannabis Summit. And that's taking place on June 24th and 25th at the Fantasy Springs Casino. That's a pretty big deal. It's a 2-day summit. It's put on by the city of Coachella. And they're going to have California Cannabis czar Lori Ajax, California State Treasurer Fiona Ma, Riverside County District Attorney Michael Hestron, Steve DeLangelo, co-founder of Harborside, Adrian Sedlin, who's the CEO of Candescent, and NFL All-Star athlete Kyle Turley, who's also gotten involved in the industry. So you can get tickets and attend if you want to see what's going on. I imagine it's going to be the busy place and the place to be on June 24th and 25th at the Fantasy Springs Casino. All right. Clear Lake City Council, that's way up north, is considering applications to fill a vacant council seat. And what struck my attention with this article was that Desert Hot Springs is doing the same thing. And what's going on in Clear Lake City Council nearly mirrors exactly what Desert Hot Springs is going through. Now, the Clear Lake City Council is going to consider applicants for a vacant council seat. It's going to do that at a meeting on June 6th. This came about when Mayor Nick Bennett resigned as he prepared to move to South Dakota. Now, in Desert Hot Springs, Councilmember Aniele Zavala is going to be taking up law school. Pretty hard to do law school and city council at the same time, so she's announced her resignation effective July 2nd. Anyhow, the Clear Lake has 6 applicants. So far, Desert Hot Springs has 7 applicants, but the application, it's not too late. You got till June 25th to get in your application. All right, that's that on. Want to be a council member? There you go. we're back with more. This is Russ Betts on iHub Radio in beautiful downtown Palm Springs.
The conversation of your life. Local, relevant, digital, and always on.
America will hear my 2 cents.
Elected to serve iHub radio listeners across the desert cities. He calls it as he sees it.
Quick question.
Now, here's Russ Betts.
Someone answer him now!
All right, well, the police scanners went quiet in newsrooms throughout the Coachella Valley in 2018. Well, at least for some of the cities. There's 5 cities that belong to something called ERICA, which is the Eastern Riverside County Interoperable Communications Authority. We'll just call it ERICA. And it's a joint powers authority that includes Beaumont, Cathedral City, Desert Hot Springs, Indio, and Palm Springs. And in 2018, that board decided to make broadcasts only audible to police. Newspapers, TV stations rely on the scanner. Usually they'll have a reporter assigned to listening to it. Sometimes it's a cub reporter. Sometimes it's one of the more seasoned reporters. But somebody is always listening, except not now. So that decision was made in 2018, and it recently came back to all the city councils to say, hey, do you agree with this decision? It would have been nice if they asked us in advance. But anyhow, they went back and had another vote. And Indio City Council member Waymond Furman, he motioned to, let's see what we got here. He made the motion to bring the radio back to the newsrooms. And Desert Hot Springs had instructed its mayor, Mayor Scott Mattis, similarly to vote in favor of it. And so he seconded the motion. And so you had Indio and Desert Hot Springs in favor. But Beaumont and Cathedral City voted to keep the status quo, meaning to keep the radio, the police radio scanner traffic out of the newsrooms. So that left one city, and that was Palm Springs. And rather than making a decision, Palm Springs abstained. And representing the Palm Springs was Mayor Robert Moon, and he said the city council is waiting for a firm legal opinion before it takes further action. And the question is whether or not the California Department of Justice will allow certain content to go over the radio. They sometimes when they're, you ever heard radio? You ever listen to the radio scanner? Pull over, I need to run this plate, I need the address. In fact, you can listen online to these radio scanners, and then you can sit there and tune in on your, watch on your computer and call up an address. You go to Google Maps, you can see the house, you can see everything about it, you can follow out where the action's going, if there's been a disturbance at a bar or a break-in or a robbery. Pretty much follow everything. Well, the news does that also, and it becomes very helpful, they say, especially in an emergency. Well, it's still quiet. The Riverside County Sheriff does not have an encrypted system, so as long as you know the police channels, the cities that are covered by the Riverside County Sheriff's Department will continue to hear the police scanner traffic. All right. Record low unemployment for workers without a bachelor's degree. That was announced in the new unemployment numbers released in May. Now, remember, well, you don't remember, but during the Depression, you basically needed a college degree just to get a job operating an elevator. They used to have elevator operators back then. Today, job applicants are scarce, and of course, guess what happens? We would prefer people with a college degree, but like experience will be okay. And then it gets to the point, well, all right, forget it. You don't need a bachelor's degree to work here. Just come on. We need bodies. If you're bright and intelligent and you didn't get your degree for whatever reason, well, we need you. We got work. And so unemployment for workers without a bachelor's degree fell to the lowest rate on record in May. That's according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And extremely low joblessness for less educated workers is a sign that the decade-long expansion is benefiting economically vulnerable people and is reaching workers at the margins the labor force. It sounds like I'm reading that. I was reading from the AP Newswire. So anyhow, that's good news. Unemployment rate for workers over the age 25 without a 4-year degree fell to 3.4%, and that's the lowest in records that go back to 1992. So that's good. Workers without a high school diploma also saw a significant drop. At one point in time, their unemployment rate was 16%, and now that's down to just 5.4%. So, all right, the good economy keeps rolling along. There was some talk about, it was only helping certain people, but apparently now it's helping even people without a college degree. Go figure. You don't need to have a college degree to be bright and successful in this world, and, at least you can go get a job. All right, there you go. All right, I'm going to take a little bit of time here to get into an essay. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but you ever heard one of those annoying people that threaten to sue you? I mean, they never do. They just always threaten to do it. I'm going to sue you. I'm going to sue you. And in response, I guess they think you're supposed to say, oh, no. Well, what do you want? What am I supposed to do so you won't sue me? I never say that. I always view it as an empty threat. It is an empty threat. When someone says they're going to sue you, it most usually is an empty threat. And if they're going to sue you, if they're really going to sue you, they would just walk up to you and say, hi, here's the papers, you are served. You'll hear those magic words, you have been served. And so anyhow, when I hear somebody threaten me like that, I always just say, you know what, tell you what. You head on over to your lawyer, you draw up the papers, and you come right back here and you hand them to me. I'll wait right here for you. Go do it. You're going to sue me, go do it. But quit sitting there threatening that you're going to sue me. So we've been hearing something similar nationally for months, actually for years. The word is impeachment. And how many times have you heard it said by the Democrats, we're going to impeach Trump? It's time to impeach Trump. I mean, they're even making montages out of it on, you can go on to the internet and pick up a montage where people say it over and over and over and over and over again. Of course, they're mocking the process. But the bottom line is the Democrats in the House are not going to start impeachment proceedings against Trump. It's an empty threat. And it makes those that don't like Trump feel good. I know they want to hear it. We want to get him out of here. Certainly that president has some problems. But it makes me want to say, do it already. I'm so sick of hearing the threat. If you're going to impeach Trump, do it. I mean, how many months have we been hearing this? Wait a minute, correct that. How many years have we been hearing this? Does anybody have the slightest understanding of how impeachment works? I mean, if you do, you know it's an empty threat. Did you study civics in grade school? I mean, you learned how impeachment works in grade school, remember? So, it's an empty threat for two reasons. The first one is the biggie. The first reason is an empty threat is because, drum roll please, there's not enough Democrats in the House to support it. They don't have the votes, and it's not even close. Just about 20% of Democrats in the House have said they favor impeachment. And I'm not making this up. With all the noise we've heard about impeachment, you would think they had the votes and were only trying to decide if they should actually go through with it or not. I mean, that's usually the way it works. We got the support for this, but is this something we really want to do? Well, they're not even at that point. They got, as of Friday, June 7th, and this is all coming to us via the New York Times and a tally they're keeping, 59 Democrat members of the House are in favor of impeachment, joined by one Republican, so that's a total of 60. Now, the House has 435 members. There's 176 Democrats that do not, as of this date, support impeachment. So you got 59 in favor, 176 say no, and on the Republican side, it's 197 that don't favor it. So it's not a tough hurdle in the House to get an impeachment process approved and moved over to the Senate. It only takes a simple majority, 218. The Democrats have 235 seats in the House, and they have that one Republican, but they only have 60 in favor of it. So what is all this noise? It's like the guy is threatening to sue you. Go ahead and do it, please. I'm tired of hearing it. Now, moving over to the Senate is a different story, and there's where the second part of this equation comes in. In the Senate, it is not a simple majority that is needed. It's a 2/3 supermajority. And I remember having a conversation with a friend, must have been a year or two ago, and he was convinced that Trump would be impeached and upon impeachment removed from office. And I asked him, well, how many votes does it take in the Senate to impeach? And he didn't know. He thought it was a simple majority. Well, it dawned on him when I told him it takes a 2/3 supermajority in the Senate to uphold impeachment that it wasn't going to happen. Right now, as of this moment, you got 60 representatives in the House that would agree to start impeachment proceedings, and you have nowhere near a 2/3 majority in the Senate that would even uphold it or carry it through. And if you want to go to our 239-year history of this country, 2 times impeachment has been brought to the Senate to prosecute. And 2 times they have voted not to convict. The first one was Andrew Johnson. That was a close one, but he ducked it. And the second one was Bill Clinton. And both times it failed to go there. So I would really wish that we could just drop this conversation, get on to some serious conversation. And, I mean, please, just either file the papers or shut up, okay? It's just, all right, anyhow. All right. Well, apparently the Desert Sun is tired of hearing about it all, too. I don't know if they're tired of hearing about impeachment, but the Desert Sun announced that its opinion pages are taking a summer vacation from national politics. Oh, interesting. They're going to, what's this came out of the Palm Springs executive editor, Julie McKinnon. And sorry if I mispronounced your name, but she said it means no columns, no cartoons, no letters about the president, Congress, the Supreme Court, etc. Throw in the word impeachment. Have a burning opinion about any of those things, save it up. We'll get to that in August. And they're saying that earlier in the year, a trio of university researchers from Louisiana State, Texas A&M, and Colorado State published a fascinating and troubling study that found that the ongoing extinction of local newspapers across the nation contributes to political polarization. You know, maybe they're just going to focus in on local news. Well, that's what we do here on the Russ Betts Show. Okay, good. The water is warm. Come on in, as they say. That's great. I certainly don't like it myself, to the fine reporting that goes on at the Desert Sun. They've always had very good reporters there. There was a fixture at every council meeting of a reporter sitting there and writing the main stories that came out of the meeting, and then there was always that in other news taken up by the council or in other items taken up by the council, and then they would list the other items. And you see some local papers taking that up. Be nice to see that type of reporting. It's a lot of people are relying on Facebook and Facebook reporters and people setting up newsrooms in their own homes, and that's not a substitute for good, solid local reporting. So, all right, well, that's interesting. Desert Sun's taking a break from talking of national politics for a month. And that includes they're also not going to be talking about, they're not going to be saying the I word anymore. Okay, that's good. All right, well, the other big word in the news is homeless. And the latest homeless figures are causing quite a bit of heartbreak and dismay in Los Angeles. That's a story out of the Los Angeles Times. They call it sad, discouraging, and catastrophic. When they describe LA's most recent homeless count. And according to the census, homeless has increased by 12% in LA County and by 16% in the city of Los Angeles. And among 18 to 24-year-olds, the numbers are up 24%. And this is the chronic homelessness, and it's jumped by 17% as an average number. Wow. Now, they just passed Measure HHH in Los Angeles, which provided all kinds of new funding and new services. So here they got more services for the homeless, and they're ending up with more homeless. How does that work? All right, well, apparently Los Angeles is attracting homeless, I guess. The weather, what's going on? The conditions are not good. I just spent a night up in L.A., My wife, who's a workaholic, decided to take a trip with me, and so we went walking around, and she hadn't seen it. I see it every time I go up there, the tents that are parked on the sidewalk, and she hadn't seen that, and she was just shocked. She says, wow, what a beautiful city. And if you take a look at Los Angeles, it's going through a huge transition. It's becoming a very livable downtown city. New apartments going in. You walk into the Target or the grocery stores that are there, and you see people shopping, families, stuff you never used to see in downtown LA. I mean, it was like, no, we're not going to live in downtown LA. It's not the place to be. Well, that city's made great strides on that. But at the one end, you got all this great, beautiful new city going in place, and it is looking good and livable. On the other hand, you can't walk down a sidewalk for tripping over the tent stakes that are holding up the tent, or the blue tarps that are covering it. And some parts of it are just, it's just horrible. I don't know what they're going to do up there. What they're doing clearly isn't working. They've got huge amounts of new money going into the problem, but it seems like the more they spend, the worse it's getting. All right. Oakland becomes the second U.S. city to decriminalize magic mushrooms. Well, we've moved on from marijuana to magic mushrooms. You know, there's people out there that make the case marijuana is a gateway drug. Does this mean that for cities that marijuana is a gateway drug to magic mushrooms? I'm not one of those, by the way, that believes that marijuana is a gateway drug to harder drugs. Just trying to be cute here with this, but it is a bit unusual. I would have never imagined that there was a movement out there to decriminalize magic mushrooms. And in case you're wondering what magic mushrooms are, they're hallucinogenic mushrooms that what do they call them? Euthanogenic plants. Like peyote. Anyhow, the resolution states that no local dollars shall be used to enforce criminal laws against adult use and possession. So now you can freely walk around Oakland with psychedelic mushrooms, high on them or whatever you want to do. So great. Now you got people walking all over, out of their minds, high on mushrooms. Okay, not good. An update on the missing city manager in the city of Mcfarland. Well, they haven't found him yet. And they placed him on paid leave for 30 days. And law enforcement is continuing to try and figure out where he is. John Wooner was last seen at the Bakersfield Cemetery on Tuesday, May 14th at around 5:30 p.m. He was driving his city vehicle. Anyhow, the city council had to do something. So last Sunday we reported you they were considering putting him on 30 days paid leave. Well, now they've officially done it. And that's tough, dude. What's going on with the family there that wondering, hey, great job, happy times, and then you got that going. So let me look at I'm way over time here. Okay, this is Russ Betts on iHub Radio. We're back with more.
Live from the Palm Springs iHub, he calls it as he sees it. The Russ Betts Show. Call 760-544-TALK. Now, here's Russ Betts.
Well, for years there was a magazine out called High Times that was advocating for the legalization of marijuana. And now after reading this story about Oakland wanting to decriminalize magic mushrooms, somebody going to come out with a magazine that's called Really High Times? Well, speaking of legalizing cannabis, Illinois became the 11th state to legalize cannabis. For all the noise and commotion, I would have thought it would have been higher than that, but it's not. It's only 11 states. A city in California has decided that they need the words, "In God We Trust," on their police vehicles. It's not enough we got it on the money and wherever else it appears. They've decided they want to put it on their police vehicles also. And so the Bakersfield City Council has given the go-ahead to adding the motto, "In God We Trust," to police and fire vehicles. And I'm reading here that they had 2 hours of public... No, wait, what was this? Yeah, 2-hour debate. They had 19 speakers opposed and 11 spoke in favor. My view is you go to church for your religious purposes and you go to city government for city government purposes. And I have no problem with keeping the two separate. And the way I put it is, what if I walked into the church, my local church, and I stepped up to somehow managed to get control of the pastor's lectern and started talking about the latest housing element details that we're working on to satisfy the state of California. I mean, nobody in the audience would really want to hear that. We're just about out of time here. I don't know what else I got left in this stack. Santa Clara County supervisors refused to back off their sanctuary policy. We'll probably get into that one next week. They said that somebody was released, ended up breaking into a house and stabbing a woman to death. So that brought a whole bunch of people out to the council meeting in Santa Clara County, asking for not to be to no longer be a designated sanctuary city. All right, that's it for the Russ Betts Show. Anita Rufus, a lovable liberal, coming up next. Happy to be with you.